Your Excellencies, ladies, honored guests, you, the public, our honored guests who've chosen to grace us with your presence, your very important presence at this event. I am Tshepiso Makwetla. Watashi wa Nihongo na.
Watashi wa Nihongo.
Watashi wa Nihongo.
I speak Japanese. That's very nice.
And we just want to say that this is the fun part of the evening. I kind of got a sense that some of you didn't get it. This is the fun part of the evening. Yes! I hope you enjoyed the sake, the wine, and the Japanese sweets, courtesy of the Ministry of Labor, Welfare. And we just want to say, whether you've been here over the last few days, whether this was your first health event ever, or whether you're just here as an interested citizen who wants to be part of Health for All, rising for our rights for universal health coverage. So I thought, Sputnika, we should do a little exercise, given that there's a tricky situation that we really shouldn't talk about. The fact that if we don't get them looking like they're half alive, the organizers have said that they have some backup hosts, So I was thinking, to illustrate that your pulses are really going, we're going to divide the room in 3 parts, right? So we've got Health for All on this side, Rising for Our Right on this side, and we've got universal health coverage. And we're going to chant it. Dr. Tedros, I think you're leading this one. So we're going to shout, Health for All, Rising for Our Right, universal health coverage. Sputniko, would you like to say that in Japanese?
These people who are sitting in this section, Health for All is what you're going to shout, please. And with very high tension, please. And these people in this section, what is? Rising for Our Right is what you're going to say. It's very difficult to pronounce, right? But I hope you're prepared. Rising for Our Rights. And the people on the right, universal health coverage. Universal health coverage is what you're going to shout out, okay? Everybody ready? This is like an English lesson for you. I hope you're ready.
All! Health for all! Got the ones who shout the highest get more sake, okay? Let's try that again, Dr. Tedros. Health for all! Health for all!
Health for all! Health for all!
Okay, okay. Shall we try this section, Sputniko? So this is Rising for Our Right.
Okay,
we want to hear you rising.
Rising for our right, yeah?
Here we go. Rising for our right! Rising for our right!
Rising for our right! Rising for our right!
Okay. We're getting there. You see,
right
the aim is that wherever they are in the world, they're supposed to hear us. Huh? Okay. Universal health coverage. Come on, you can give it a go.
Universal health coverage! Universal health coverage! Universal... UHC!
Okay, final exercise. We're going to have a Tokyo wave, because we're rocking Tokyo tonight, right? So we're going to start on this end. Everybody rises from the first seat to the end, and then we're going to come back to this section and then to the last. Sputniko?
All right, so Tokyo wave するんで.
So we're going to do a Tokyo wave. We'll start from this end. A wave very unique to Tokyo. Tokyo type of wave, please. Like a Tokyo Tower, because it's closer.
はい。
A wave like a Tokyo Tower. じゃあ3。
And you're going to rise. And then when the last, so you've got to be observant. When that last seat sits down, this end goes up. And it's like, we're going to do a Tokyo. We're rocking Tokyo tonight. Are you with me? Okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's just try it on this end. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. UHC. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving you a warm round of applause. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So today we have global and national leaders, we have artists and advocates, and we have all of you, leaders, advocates, and experts in your own right, representing so many different issues, countries, and sectors. All here because we care about the same thing, creating a world where good health and all of its opportunity does not depend where you live, how much money you have, or your gender, age, race, or religion.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we know that there is new data that shows that quite a significant number of the world population is denied access to universal health coverage, quality health care. And today we are here to further galvanize that movement for more support for the best life health care in our lifetimes. So now that we have a clearer picture, ladies and gentlemen, we want to ensure that approximately half of all the people in the world get essential health services that they need. But advocates for health for all don't just rest on their laurels, they don't shy away from challenges. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you will see everybody who's invigorated not only by this conference, but who comes here as an advocate who says, not on my watch, that there will not be people who die unnecessarily because they do not have access to healthcare. So, without further ado, let us begin.
Okay, thank you. So, to kick off tonight's show, we are very excited to welcome a calligraphy artist and performer whose talent has been recognized by the world's leading art institutions, from the Louvre in Paris to the Museum of Modern Art in New York. His work already graces the banners, buttons, and the programs for tonight's event. And now we'll have the privilege of watching him perform live and bring the concept of health for all to life. So please join me in welcoming Maya Wakasugi. Wakasugi-san. お願いします。
皆様
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maya Wakasugi. I'm a calligrapher. What I just calligraphed. This is Chinese character meaning health or healthy. For humans to be both physically and mentally healthy. That is the origin of this Chinese character, I understand. The slogan for this conference, Health for All. That's the message. And as you can see, the O for shaped like a heart. When you are healthy, I think your heart is healthy as well. The heart, the mental part, the soul. The origin of the Chinese character is actually shaped like a heart. And therefore, I was thinking about that as I calligraphed that. And thank you very much for this opportunity tonight.
Arigato, Maya. That was exceptional. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him another round of applause. As you heard him say, that this represents health. And the reason that we have the different kind of expressions we have today is to really emphasize that any victory in this war against access to universal health coverage has to be multi-sectoral. And different types of expressions reach all levels of communities. And I just want to say thank you so much, Maya, for taking part in this forum with us. So, as you know, it's no coincidence that this week's historic forum on universal health coverage is taking place right here in Tokyo. Japan is and has been one of the most foremost national champions of this cause for universal health coverage, both domestically and internationally. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, you heard Prime Minister Shinzo Abe say yesterday that the people of Japan have demonstrated that when countries prioritize health for their citizens, communities and nations soar. So to tell us a little bit more about their efforts, and I'm sure we'll also hear more detail about the pledge that has been made, that incredible pledge, we invite onto the stage State Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kazumi Nakane. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him with a warm round of applause.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, having seen the calligraphy performance of Maya Wakasugi, if I may share with you my thoughts. Health for all. I think the performance gave us even more powerful and encouraging message from the term health. And I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Maya for the wonderful calligraphy performance. So once again, on behalf of the co-organizer of the UHC Forum 2017, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the representative of countries, international organizations, and civil societies for participating in this public event this evening. I thank you all. Japan is focused on the concept of human security, under which we endeavor to raise the status of universal health coverage agenda as a core challenge for the international community to aim for. And UHC responds to diverse health needs across different generations and gender. And therefore, it is indispensable to achieve the SDG ideal of leaving no one behind in the society. Promoting UHC and strengthening health systems also leads to prevention and preparedness against future crises. UHC is one of the goals included in SDG, and it requires multi-sector and multidisciplinary collaboration. And there are still many challenges to achieve UHC, and multi-stakeholders must partner to respond appropriately. Japan, together with the international community, is promoting UHC in various opportunities available, including high-level political fora. And we also collaborate with development partners to implement UHC on the ground. Our co-organizer, UHC 2030, is a platform of diverse range of collaboration toward UHC achievements. Last year, Japan chaired the G7 Ise-Shima Summit, and the establishment of this platform was supported in the summit, and we welcome the significant growth since then. We hope UHC 2030 continues to serve a major role for various participating countries and bodies and civil societies to collaborate in promoting universal health care and universal health coverage going forward. TICAD 6 was held in Kenya last year, and Japan proposed UHC and healthcare as priority areas contributing to prevention and preparedness of future crises, and a policy framework to recommend the partnership and specific activities toward UHC was proposed as UHC in Africa. We proposed this together with the World Bank, WHO, and Global Fund. And as was discussed today in the meeting, this is supporting different countries' efforts since then. We are grateful that many people actively engaged and achieving results in UHC are in attendance today. Promotion of UHC can not be done by government bodies alone. Efforts and education activities by civil society is indispensable, and therefore I would like to express my gratitude to your efforts. To further promote UHC, each and every one of us will focus on the achievement of UHC in our respective regions and areas, and this should be considered a common goal. So, under the national government ownership, we need collaboration amongst international bodies, development partners, and civil society organizations. As Prime Minister Abe mentioned during today's opening session, Japan will provide a total of $2.9 billion of assistance to support efforts by countries and organizations to achieve UHC going forward. I sincerely hope that the commitment of action that will be made today by countries and CSOs will serve as good model for other regions and other organizations, so as to serve as an engine to realize a society that leaves no one behind. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Minister. Japan's leadership on universal health coverage has been remarkable. We salute you. So now it's my honor to introduce Dr. Ala Merabit, who, in addition to being a medical doctor, is one of 17 Sustainable Development Goal Advocates appointed by the UN Secretary General, a UN High-Level Commissioner on Health, Employment, and Economic Growth, and this year named one of Forbes' 30 under 30 leaders for healthcare. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Merabit.
Hi, how are you all doing this evening? I know after the wave and the art, my speech might be a little bit of a letdown, but I'm gonna throw in some extra jokes just to make it really good. I'm also gonna get out from behind this podium because it makes it very clear that I'm only 5'2". And that's been something I try to hide sometimes. So for those of you who don't know me, I was born in a city called Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada, a nice small prairie city. And I was born in my mother's bedroom, which most people don't assume would be happening in Canada in the late 1980s. But as is true to my nature, I was very impatient, and I demanded and came a little bit early. Luckily, my mom got to the hospital within about 10 minutes. Immediately, doctors took my vitals and pronounced me a healthy child. I never really thought this was a big deal growing up. I actually remember telling this story at school, and I thought it was part of my Wonder Woman phase. But I never really thought it was remarkable until I was in medical school. And during my year of internship, I would go, in Libya, to women's homes who had been forced to have their child at home because the clinic was too far or there wasn't a car nearby to take them. And I began to realize how rare it is for women around the world to feel comfortable and have healthcare access that they feel is always there and always prepared. Now, fast forward that to when I was 12, and I got something else that I thought made me a little bit of a badass. I got a bout of appendicitis. Now, how many people here have had appendicitis? You can raise your hands. Yeah, we're the only cool ones in the room. It's okay. But I thought it made me tough. I went to school and I showed off my scars. And I had a fancy appendectomy. Mine was with cameras and with cool things. I quickly learned, a little less than 4 years later, from a friend of mine that actually lived in the United States, that her cousin had passed away from appendicitis. Because when she felt pain, she didn't want to risk going to the hospital in case it was nothing and have to pay for the checkup. That's the reality of what happens when we do not have healthcare access. Now, I've told you a few of my own stories only because I can tell you all the facts, all the empirical evidence, all the data, but you've been hearing that for the past couple of days. And I think we would be lying if we didn't say we already know that. It's why CEOs around the world give higher bonuses to employees who go and work out or who eat healthy, because they know it means that employees will take less sick days. They'll be more productive. It's actually better for the business. And we know that most of our heads of state and ministers of health know that it makes economic sense for us to cover health access. I personally don't think the empirical evidence is the problem. It exists. I think the problem lies in political will. The problem lies in the recognition that I should not have to tell you personal stories of loss. I shouldn't even have to tell you the statistics that 6 million children die a year from preventable causes under the age of 5, or that 800 women die a day from maternal mortality. I should not have to tell you that. What we should be looking at health coverage as is the same way we look at education. Something that does not have to be justified by data or evidence, but rather a basic and fundamental human right. We have to call on our own politicians and ask them, if you had appendicitis when you were 12, what would you want? Because I thank God every day that a hospital was only 5 minutes away, and that my parents didn't have to worry about going in debt or going bankrupt to make sure I could get there. So I'm calling on everybody in this room whether you've had appendicitis or not, to call on your own politicians, your heads of state, your ministers, CEOs, the people of influence in your own space, and ask them to demand universal health coverage, not because it makes economic sense or political sense, even though it does, but because at the very core, it is a fair and fundamental human right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moravit. So now, if you'll now direct your attention to the screen, we're now going to watch a brief video by Global Citizen, the Elders, a group of independent world leaders founded by the late Nelson Mandela and the UHC Coalition.
Health cannot be a question of income. It's a fundamental human right. Nelson Mandela spoke those words from Cape Town, South Africa in December 2003. And today, the fight still exists. Universal health coverage means everybody receives the health care they need without suffering financial hardship. It's a goal with a growing global movement of leaders and citizens behind it. There have been tremendous gains in recent years, especially in Asia, Latin America, and Africa. But we need more action, fast. So what can be done? Your actions and citizen opinions will get political leaders to deliver health as a human right accessible to all. Download a poster and upload a picture tagging Walk Together to show why you care. Let's show this collectively. We are demanding steps on the long walk to freedom for health.
And as a proud South African, I must say it's an honor to come onto the stage following that video and a reminder of the kind of leadership not only that South Africa had, but that the world has and needs. And Dr. Moravit, I think you also emphasized that very well, that each and every single one of us that is here is to be held accountable. Yes, we're here to celebrate, but we're celebrating understanding that all of the commitments that are made today, that as soon as we leave this room, people are going to come to us and ask, what have you done to hold those who made those commitments accountable? And those who are here, who aren't even in the room when these things were being discussed or the various declarations which were drawn up, you are going to demand that solutions that are designed specifically for you, for your own unique circumstances, that those are implemented and that you are included in the design thereof. So there have been various challenges that have been highlighted, that we need to ensure that coverage of informal sectors, for instance, is included in making UHC truly universal. As I said, design a benefit package that is responsive and appropriate to the current health challenges and yet fiscally sustainable, and that we ensure that supply-side readiness is there, availability of quality services. We've had leaders who have led these pledges, who have led these programs, and I just want to remind you, in light of what we heard, the elders, you know, in every community, and I must say, I'm an avid reader of Eastern literature, but I must say, especially books from Japan. And one of the things that I love is the culture, especially the culture of respect. We defer to leaders, not because we have to, but leaders act in such a manner that we defer to them. A good leader takes little more than his share of the blame, a little less of the share of the credit, and that management is doing the right thing, but that leadership is doing more of those right things. And ladies and gentlemen, I think the people that I speak of on whose shoulders we stand today, because they've led that through their various portfolios, through their championing of various programs, are here to tell you a little bit more about how we're going to push forward. So we're moving into the centerpiece of tonight's event, a celebratory event, as I said, of leaders from government to philanthropy to civil society, those who've committed to accelerate national action on universal health coverage. So here to open the ceremony are two of those great giants in global health, two leaders whose steadfast leadership has helped to make universal healthcare coverage a global priority. Two leaders who've dedicated their lives to access to healthcare for everyone, everywhere. Dr. Jim Yong Kim, President of the World Bank Group, followed by Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, who's the Director General of the World Health Organization. Please give them a warm, warm round of applause. And let me welcome Dr. Kim onto the stage.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. It's really great to be here, especially with members of civil society. You know, I not very long ago, was a member of a CSO called Partners in Health, and I was an activist. Now, I've told the story many times that in 1994, I was part of a group, the 50 Years is Enough, in which we tried to close the World Bank. But what many people don't know, except my good friends, Tedros remembers, Tim remembers, Ariel remembers, before I fought the World Bank, I fought the World Health Organization. And the thing we fought the World Health Organization over was whether or not certain types of patients should be treated like this gentleman. All right. This is Melquiades. Melquiades Waya was suffering from multi-drug resistant tuberculosis when we met him in the early 1990s. And the World Health Organization policy at the time was that patients suffering from multi-drug resistant tuberculosis were to be ignored. They were not to be treated. That treating patients like this with drug-resistant disease was a distraction. There wasn't enough money. Lives like his were just not cost-effective. We fought, we fought, we fought. This is what Melquiades looks like today. He's an accountant working, he's a movie star actually, because he was featured in a movie about the work we did. But over time, we won the battle with WHO, and now WHO is in favor of treating MDR-TB. But a few years later, we had the exact same battle with HIV. Same argument, treating HIV in Africa is just not cost-effective. Tedros and I fought this battle with great energy, but can you imagine? At the time, the World Health Organization was straddling the fence in 2003, but just about every single public health leader said that it is not cost-effective, not possible to treat HIV/AIDS in Africa. So they were saying to the 25 million people in Africa living with HIV, I'm sorry, you're all dead. Now, what many of us said was, if we do that, we will forever be remembered as a generation that sat by as a genocide occurred right in front of our eyes because it was just not convenient. And many of us together, where's Bernard Schwartlander? He led the fight at WHO to bring HIV treatment to everyone. He came up with the term 3x5. We started a movement, and now over 20 million people are on treatment for HIV. I don't think Africa would have grown. The economy wouldn't have grown. So here's my message for all of you. Our commitments, my commitments are very real. We continue, you know, the difference between me as an activist and me now is that as an activist, every day I beg for money. Today, I give in loans and grants about $65 billion a year. Small difference. But I have not stopped trying to be an activist. And so the commitment I'm making to you, we're going to do a human capital ranking that will create overwhelming incentives for heads of state and ministers of finance to listen to their ministers of health and make the kind of investments in health and education that everybody deserves. We also commit to scaling up. We did $3.4 billion this year, the highest we've ever done in a single year for health, and we're going to keep going up. But that's not all. We're going to work with pension funds and sovereign wealth funds and donors to create a pool of financing that's so massive that we're actually going to be able to reach UHC. The thing I want to leave the young people here with is this. I show you pictures like this, and you may come to the wrong conclusion. You may come to the conclusion that those people who said you shouldn't treat them, they were bad people. They were not bad people. They were outstanding, wonderful, compassionate, caring people. But they just got it in their heads, and everyone around them was saying the same thing. I mean, Bernard remembers nobody was in favor of HIV treatment. Everyone says they were in favor of HIV treatment back then, but nobody was. Literally a handful of us that were arguing for it. And the reason is because of what we know from behavioral economics. People think socially. They are affected by people around them. People think automatically, and people think with mental models. And if the mental model and everyone around you is saying, don't treat HIV, even though it could lead to a genocide, you tend to say the same thing. So your job today is not to look back and say those must be bad people. Your job today is to figure out what it is that we're doing now that in 15 years we'll say, can you believe we thought that? And then your job is to put pressure on people like me and Tedros to make sure that we get rid of those things that are stopping everyone on earth from having an equal opportunity at a life full of love and productivity, with a good job, with health, and with education for everyone, especially their children. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, and please give him another warm round of applause. I often argue that we get the leaders that we deserve, and how deserving we are of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Kim. And as you raised the issue, and this is why I was talking about packages, benefit packages that are designed to benefit all of us. And if you talk about some of the projections or some of the measures that have been put forth about how we're going to deal with this, benefit packages don't sufficiently deal with non-communicable diseases or other related preventative outpatient care. So we need to work with what we've got, but work better. Ladies and gentlemen, after that very powerful story related by Dr. Kim, I'd like to call onto the stage Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization. Please, a warm round of applause for him.
Jim,
Just wait here for
thank you. Thank you very much. Jim was a professor, he was a teacher, so he can manage the stage without any problem moving from one direction to the other. But me, I always use that podium, and they moved it, so now I'm in trouble. So anyway, I will try my best. I will tell you a tale of two countries. The first one, actually, I told you this morning. A friend of mine from a high-income country who chose death because he had no enough money to treat himself and then leave something for the family. So in order not to impoverish his family, then he actually did forego treatment, and 2 years after that decision, he died naturally. So he had to choose between death and poverty. So he chose death so that his family could live better. That's one story. And the second is a country that I visited in 1988, another high-income country. And it's called Denmark. And this is 30 years ago, and I was 22 years old. And something that surprised me is, before even I left my country, Ethiopia, I received health insurance for 1 year. That's Denmark. And I was really surprised. This country must be a perfect country, covering all its citizens, plus even a visitor who is going to be there for 4 months. So I had a scholarship for 4 months, and I got a 1 year health insurance. This is 31 years ago. And actually, they started health for all or universal health coverage in Denmark and other Scandinavian countries decades before that. And then I will tell you about another story, the story of two populations, groups of population in the world now. So from the two countries, half of it access to health care, half of it no. So this is a tale of two groups of population. And then you wonder, what would be the difference between these two countries and between two groups, billions getting no service, and 100 million actually getting impoverished every year because they're paying out of pocket? What's the difference? Why can't one group be protected and the other is? And the answer is simple. It's the lack of political will in one country and having a political will in another country. Japan is another story, for instance, with strong political will. You sense it, you see it, it's happening. And there are other countries you can mention. So the difference is political will. There is political will in one country and no political will in another country. Otherwise, there are middle income, low income, high income countries who are implementing UHC, and there are high income, middle income, and low income countries who are not implementing UHC. But behind that, the difference, the root cause of the difference is, even if it's political will, if you ask why, it's the recognition by some countries that health is as a rights issue. I join Ms. Mursabet on this, and also Kim said the same thing. If you recognize health as a rights issue, fundamental one, that recognition will take you into political will. Then it's the political will that will trigger the resources, mobilizing the resources you need and the other things you need to do in order to make it happen. So the question is, what do we do? If what is missing is political will, and then the root cause is not recognizing health as a rights issue, the solution, the antidote for it is political movement, which Global Citizens was saying, health for all. I thank, by the way, the Deputy Foreign Minister. He bowed to you like this, and then he bowed to the idea. He's saying, I respect, that's what I understood. So it's by creating this movement, by really respecting that health for all from our heart, because we have been saying it since 1948, since the establishment of WHO. And even in 1970s, we renewed our commitment, Almaty Declaration. We have to walk our talk now. And I see momentum building. I said it earlier during our closing session. Things are coming together. I don't want to take your time again to repeat what is happening. It's happening. So let's keep that momentum and have grassroots movements that can really mobilize millions to ask for their rights. That's the answer. Because it's a political question. It's not technical. We know the techniques. But it's the political intervention which is missing and which should really come. And that can come through movements. And your voice is important. So my call to you, to us, all of us, is we have to be as vocal and as aggressive as possible, because it's a rights issue. And we don't want to see people dying because they are poor. It's completely immoral when somebody dies when the antidote or the medicine is at hand. The world has all the resources it needs. So it can make it happen. And that's why I call upon all of us to really use this momentum grow it even further, and then achieve the health for all that we're aspiring and walk our talk. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Tedros, for your inspiring words and for setting us up perfectly for the main event, commitments of action to accelerate progress on universal health coverage. So will all those making statements please join us and Dr. Tedros on stage now?
All of those who are making commitments, please join us on the stage along with Dr. Tedros. So this is that kind of event where we don't ask you to stop giving applause for those who truly, truly deserve it. So please welcome them onto the stage with a warm, warm, warm round of applause. So these are the people who are at the forefront.
Where do I stand? There? Here?
These are the advocates, the leaders, the change makers. These are the people who, at national and local level, need to be recognized for every hard-fought step forward. So remember that in many places, it still takes courage of conviction to make the case that universal health coverage is morally right, as you heard Dr. Tedros say, that it's economically smart, as Dr. Kim said, and that it's urgently needed. So you can be sure that this takes on more to hold on, for us to hold them accountable as well for actions and results, and that these individuals are prepared to do so, and this is why they're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce you to these individuals.
So first up to the center microphone, Batul Al-Wahani, Vice President of External Affairs for the International Federation of Medical Students Associations.
We are gathered here today with one dream in our hearts and minds, reaching health for all. And I'm very happy to be here with you today to share with you the commitment of the future world and health leaders, the commitment of 1.3 million medical students from 127 countries around the world. We represent the future health workforce. And we want to tell you that we are as committed as you are towards achieving UHC. But our commitment is a special one because it starts with improving ourselves, with realizing the importance of this problem, with realizing every single aspect of it, from primary healthcare, interprofessional collaboration, providing healthcare without isolation from finances, economics, and human rights, with empowering youth to be active advocates of UHC in their communities, with inspiring them to become innovators in finding solutions to the problems our health systems face nowadays. And yet, our common goal is reaching UHC by 2030. But by that time, who will be carrying out and continuing these negotiations and discussions? Who will be implementing the policies, doing the actions, and providing healthcare to the people? It will be us. And therefore, our commitment is to be the voice of youth in this global momentum and to join every one of you in reaching UHC by 2030, starting from today until 2030 and even beyond. Our commitment is to be the voice of the younger generation, the power of the nations, and your guarantee to reach universal health coverage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Batul Al-Wahani, Vice President of External Affairs for the International Federation of Medical Students Associations. Just a quick word. Our leaders will return, in case some of you think that they have left. Just some quick housekeeping, but they'll be here to hear the rest of the commitments. And next is Isaac Adewole, who is Minister of Health, Nigeria. Please give him a warm round of applause as he makes his commitment.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I come from Nigeria, a country that constitutes 1/4 of the population of Africa. and 1 out of every 5 black people anywhere in the world is Nigerian. Our journey to the attainment of universal coverage started in 2014 with a presidential declaration. In 2016, Nigeria launched a national health policy deliberately dedicated to achieving universal coverage. And the title of the policy was Improving the Health of Nigerians to Promote Socio-Economic Development. In 2017, Nigeria launched a National Economic Recovery and Growth Plan with 3 main pillars. 1, to restore the economy, 2, to invest in our people, and 3, to constitute and promote an inclusive economic growth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with a strong political commitment from our national president, we kickstarted the universal coverage journey. We are hereby committed to rolling out a program of action that will offer free basic health care to 8 million Nigerians with effect from Q1 of 2018. This is our commitment, and thereafter, we will roll it out to the remaining 180 million Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much to Nigeria's Minister of Health, Isaac Adewolo. And we'd now like to call on UHC Youth Japan to make their commitment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are UHC Youth Japan 2017. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished guest and participant for taking part in today's forum. It is a great honor for us to make a speech representing young people in Japan. Japan is one of the healthiest countries in the world and is reputed to have achieved UHC well, though there is room for improvement. Japan is facing many issues, such as a high poverty rate, high suicide rate, widespread smoking, vaccine gap, and insufficient medical services available for foreigners in Japan. These issues hit the young people the hardest, and that is true all over the world.
In recent years, the aging population and declining birth rate are serious concerns, and we young people are worried about our parents' care and our own old age. We need to enhance the efficacy and sustainability of our healthcare system. We believe UHC is a solution to spread the central goal of UHC, no one left behind. The youth of the world needs to get more actively engaged in UHC by learning from each other and working together for the common goal. We hope today's declaration will be the step for youth collaboration regarding UHC. No one left behind, and chance for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, UHC Youth Japan. I love the youth. I think it's because I'm an honorary youth myself, yes? No? And I'd like to call upon Santosh Kumar Giri, who is the Secretary and Executive Director, Kolkata Rista, India, to make her commitment.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Good evening.
Namaskar. Well, I'm Santosh. My name is Santosh Kumar Giri. I am Secretary and Executive Director of Kolkata Rista, an organization working with transgender people, some of the most marginalized in Indian society. I represent community-based organization on the steering committee of USC 2030, and I'm here tonight to represent the voice of the people. We, civil society, have realized a statement at this forum with 3 key messages. First, we need to be honest and ambitious in terms of what leaving no one behind really means. We cannot leave poor people behind. We cannot ignore the ones we marginalize and criminalize, such as sex workers, injecting drug users, migrants, people with disability, prisoners, non-citizen, men having sex with men, transgender people, and many others. There can be no universal health coverage without universal human rights. Second, out-of-pocket payment must be abolished and public financing for health must be significantly increased, moving towards a goal of at least 5% of GDP as annual healthcare expenditure. People are dying because they cannot afford treatment in their hour of need, and this must end. And finally, we need to hold all stakeholders, particularly national governments, accountable for the commitment they make on UHC. We, the people, pledge to raise our voices in our home countries and on global stage to make sure promise to be kept. UHC are technically and financially possible with political will. The dream of health for all can be ours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Santosh Kumar Giri. Mark Sussman, Chief Strategy Officer and President, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to make his commitment.
Okay. So I represent a foundation that was founded out of a sense of outrage that not everybody in the world gets access to the same medical and health treatment. That's something that Bill and Melinda Gates, our founders, discovered on a trip to Africa that they like to talk about. And that sense of outrage is really what has led to the establishment of the foundation I now represent. And that foundation is built around the mission that every person, wherever they live, deserves the chance to a healthy and productive life. And the work of our foundation over the last 17 years has been devoted towards that. And now, with the spirit of health for all and the goal of universal health coverage, and building on the partnership with President Kim at the World Bank and Dr. Tedros at the World Health Organization, we have 2 new commitments to make. The first is a commitment. We understand that outrage is not enough. You need to make sure that the resources are going to the right place. You need to measure the outcomes and measure the results. So we are making a commitment to work with our partners in WHO and the World Bank and across the developing world to help get stronger, better primary healthcare metrics and measurements around service delivery. The second commitment we're making is about making sure that those discussions about universal health coverage and health for all take place and are led by the partners and the countries who are dealing with these issues. And in that spirit, I'm very happy to talk about our partnership with the African Parliamentary Forum, who will be speaking next. And our commitment is to keep engaging and keep providing the platforms and support to make sure this truly is a universal movement that brings together all the actors and people to create accountability around this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Sussman. And as you heard him say, on behalf of the peoples of Africa, the parliamentarians, Paul Jackson Zakaria Chibingu, Member of Parliament, Malawi, Vice Chair, African Parliamentary Forum, Population and Development, speaks on behalf of his delegates.
Yeah, thanks so much, Madam Director of Ceremonies. As a politician, I need to start by introducing myself. This is what we normally do as politicians. I'm Paul Chibingu, Member of Parliament from Malawi. I'm representing the members of Parliament from the African Environmental Forum on Population and Development. One of the major roles of parliamentarians is to represent the people. The past 2 or 3 days, we have been talking about universal health coverage, which is dealing with people, and we are the people who represent those people. Because of that, I would like to say a few words on behalf of my friends and on behalf of Africa. I'm here on behalf of a delegation from African Parliamentary Forum on Population and Development because we share your conviction that health for all is essential for sustainable development. Today, I commit that my delegation and I will return to our home countries as champion for universal health coverage. We will rally our parliamentarians to join our cause and urge our governments to invest in strong primary health care systems and take concrete steps towards achieving health for all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chibingu, Member of Parliament, Malawi. Next, Sanya Nishta, founder and president of HeartLife, co-chair, Independent High-Level Commission on Non-Communicable Diseases. For her commitment, please give her a warm round of applause.
Good evening. When we think of universal health coverage, we should think about that elderly woman with the broken hip who will be taken away from the hospital bedridden for life because her family cannot pay for her hip joint operation. We should think about that young child with heart disease whose family has become deeply impoverished in the process of paying for her health care. And we should think about that young man with cancer whose brother has gone to the village to sell their only cow to be able to pay for the first cycle of chemotherapy. There is a deep aspect related to financial protection which we must bring to bear when we talk about universal health coverage. But there's an equally important aspect related to geographic coverage which we must also talk about, because across many countries, especially in Africa, the health infrastructure to deliver universal health coverage is simply not there. So if you have the money, you will just fly out on the next flight. But if you're poor, you will have to forego care or live with the consequences of the disease. We have to pay attention to both. And as the recently appointed co-chair of the WHO Commission on Non-Communicable Diseases, I realized that there's a deep interlinkage between non-communicable diseases and universal health coverage, and I'm deeply committed to ensuring that we exploit synergy so that in another 5 years' time when we come together, we will be able to say, just like Jim Kim did for HIV and tuberculosis, that we have overcome a significant treatment access barrier. Thank you very much for having me here.
Sanya Nishta, thank you very much. And finally, Gitinji Gitahi, who is the CEO, Amref Health Africa, co-chair of UHC 2030, for his commitment.
Who is entitled to life and who is not? Isn't life the ultimate right for all? But despite this recognition, millions of women and children today will die, and many others will be out of active life because of diseases which are preventable and treatable. These people are suffering mainly because of who they are or where they come from. Their illness is their burden, and their life is their ultimate sacrifice. But it doesn't have to be this way. Health is a human right. Those in my village today, my home country or continent, who die today due to unavoidable or avoidable diseases, they'll die because their countries, their governments have denied them justice. Universal health coverage is not an economic issue. Evidence shows it's technically and financially possible. It's an issue of politics fulfilling their social contract with their people. But the people, too, must be empowered to demand the fulfillment of this contract. My commitment as co-chair is to support the UHC 2030 to achieve a community-driven social movement that demands for equitable, quality health as a right and not as a privilege, for which politics gives when it wants and when it can. This is in line with the UHC 2030 advocacy strategy. Achievement of universal health coverage is assurance of life, and is therefore too important to be left to politicians alone. But we must drop the word free from healthcare. Free makes it a gift to our people. And as you know, our people do not look a gift horse in the mouth. And therefore, the recipients of our healthcare wait docile, expecting the gift to happen. We must call it tax-funded healthcare, because the people pay the taxes. That way, they can demand for the rights for what they paid for, either through taxes or through premiums. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kitinji Gitahi, CEO, AMREF Health Africa, underscoring that really important point that, as you say, we need systems that recognize who is able to pay and what for a right, as you say. And with that, I'd like to ask Dr. Tedros to thank everybody. They say that people don't know their own power. Well, here you have it, a whole row of people who do know their own power and who exercise it. Dr. Tedros.
So we're so beautiful when we unite like this, starting from the students who have made their commitments, ministers, parliamentarians, civil society, representatives, private sector. This is really great. If anything is going to happen, it can only come through unity. So all parts of the society should be active players like what we have seen through the commitment tonight. So thank you so much to all of you, and thank you so much also to all of you here. Thank you. All the best. Thank you. And to our Master of Ceremony, both of them co-commanders, thank you so much. You have really led us very well. Thank you. Thank you.
Now we're not just celebrating universal health coverage in Tokyo tonight. In fact, all around the world for the past few days, people have been rising for the right to health in honor of the Universal Health Coverage Day, which officially fell on Tuesday, December 12th. To say a few words about global momentum for health for all and Universal Health Coverage Day, I'd now like to welcome Shedchai Chaivivid, Minister at the Royal Thai Embassy in Tokyo.
So we went to Makoko, and then we went to Yvonne to close, and that's it.
You know what, I'm not very good at talking without anything in front of me. So first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to speak on behalf of my government and to convey a very important message from the Royal Thai government to you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to stand alongside with government representatives as well as our partners to testify firsthand to the momentum around universal health coverage. I am very happy to note that just 2 days ago, the United Nations adopted a resolution on marking December 12th as the International Universal Health Coverage Day, and another resolution proposing to organize a high-level meeting in 2019. The Foreign Policy and Global Health Initiative, of which Thailand is the current chair, was the main contributor in promoting universal health coverage to be concluded as target 3.8 of the Sustainable Development Goals through a resolution adopted by United Nations General Assembly on 12 December 2012. We also appreciate the roles of like-minded countries like Japan, stakeholders like the World Health Organization, World Bank, and Rockefeller Foundation, all strong and long-time advocates. And we'll continue to work closely with all these partners. In reality, 400 million people around the world still do not have access to essential health services. There remain huge challenges and gaps, especially on building up equitable, quality, and affordable health systems and financial management. This is the reason why we must continue the political cooperation on building national capacities in implementing universal health coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, lastly, Thailand reaffirms its commitment to being a strong advocate of the implementation and recognition of universal health coverage. We believe that UHC 2030 will be an effective global mechanism to work together to speed up progress toward universal health coverage and ultimately leave no one behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I think you deserve a warm round of applause for all your efforts, including your country's efforts, in leading us to this point where we actually have UHC Day. Thank you very much. And I'd like to introduce a special video message from Japanese footballer and UNICEF Japan Goodwill Ambassador Makoto Hasebe.
UH フォーラムのパブリックイベントにお集まりの皆様、こんばんは。日本ユニセフ協会大使の長谷部誠です。本日は、サッカーの試合の日程上、そちらの方に足を運ぶことがどうしてもできずに、ドイツ・フランクフルトからメッセージを送らせていただいています。私は、世界の厳しい環境で生活している子どもたちの役に立ちたいと思い、これまではしかのワクチンの支援に取り組んできました。そして5月末にはアフリカのエチオピアを訪れ、ワクチンの仕組みやワクチンがどのように安全に現地に運ばれているか、そのようなことを目にしてきました。僕が訪問したのは首都から200キロ離れたガシュアンバという小さな村です。医療設備が十分でないこのような村へ予防接種をはじめ、そのような保健サービスを届けるという難しさを非常に実感しました。そしてお母さんたち一人一人に医療や保健サービスを受けることの大切さをしっかりと認識してもらう、そのようなことの重要さもすごく実感しました。世界では必要な保健医療がまだ行き届いていないために、大勢の子どもたちが命を落としています。一日でも早く病院や保健、薬など医療へのアクセスを改善することが大事なことだと思っています。すべての人に健康を、ユニバーサルヘルスカバレッジ実現のゴールのために、それぞれの国のさまざまな人が手を携え、サッカーのチームワークのように進めていくことが大事だと思っています。世界のどこにいても誰もが医療にアクセスでき、予防や治療が可能な病気で命を落とさない、そのような世界を目指して共に歩んでいきましょう。
So for a closing keynote address, it gives me great honor to invite to the stage the former president of Chile and member of the elders, Ricardo Lagos.
Good evening, my dear friends. After what we have listened during the day and what we have listened here, the different stories, the personal ones and the other ones, it's extremely difficult to conclude and to make the final statement if we are not going to think about how we're going to be able to empower people from up to down, much more important, how people being in power is going to demand action to those that are in power. Let's be realistic. It's in our own internal societies where we can produce change if we really wanted universal health coverage. It's in our own internal society, yes, but the international world has spoken today here in Tokyo. It was the leadership of Japan and the Prime Minister that opened the ceremonies this morning. But after that, speaker after speaker, we are able to produce at the national level, at the regional level, at the community level. But also, what about the NGOs? What about the civic community? In other words, all the community has spoken today with one voice. And this is why I think that is so important, the way that we can conclude here. Because yes, political action is essential. But political action is at the heart of democracy. We need first democracy in our own internal society. And this is why in my own country, in Chile, there was a time that no democracy exists, and we have to stand up and fight to return democratic values, and this is what we have today in Chile. And because we have democracy, then people ask, how are you going to go ahead to introduce a deep reform with regard to healthcare system? And we did it not only empowering people, but we did it with public policies that the main element was how to listen the patient. Here everybody speaks about something, but the patient, the future people that will need a dialysis, the future people that will need an appendicitis, as you say, where they are. They had no voice. How then are you going to produce public policies that are going to be accountable by the results at the very end? And the result is how many appendicitis you have this year available, how many dialysis you have available. In other words, I wanted to have a health reform that is accountable to the people. And that means also participation and to learn to listen to what the future patient has to tell you. We have to be a little humble and learn what the people would like to tell us, political leaders. And it's true. When you are talking about political leaders and what they can tell you, then it's essential to understand that the only way to have a political will is because the people is delivering you a very clear message. And I belong now to a group, the elders. And the elders were established and created by Nelson Mandela. As the video told you, next year will be 100 years since the birth of President Mandela. 100 years that we are planning to celebrate walking together. Mandela's life was a long walk to freedom. And what we like now is how are we going to make a long walk to freedom, yes, but a long walk to health. A long walk to be free of fear of illness. that we are going to be able to get answers, political answers. And this long walk to freedom of the elders is an invitation to all of us to action, to walk again in the long journey that Mandela did during 100 years ago. And it is possible for us today to walk together again in order to have universal health coverage with regard to what are we going to do with health. Yes, I would say, join us, work together for health for all. When the world's citizens speak as one and demand universal access to health services, governments will respond and we will truly be one step closer to UHC. And when we take steps toward UHC, we also take a stride towards achieving sustainable development goals. To coin and slightly embellish the words of Nelson Mandela, I say here and now, let us work together to let freedom for health reign among us. The sun shall never set on such a glorious human achievement. This is what we are called for action. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. And it's because of leadership like yours that when you talk about the long walk to freedom, that we are assured that we'll take long strides, quicker strides, because of moral leadership such as yours and the rest of the members of the elders. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our program, and it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the next speaker. I won't embarrass myself by saying she's my mother, as she often likes to tell people, because the amount of energy that she has will bring into question my own age and my own capacity. She is the Princess of Africa, Nguvuye Sultana wa Africa. She's a renowned singer, songwriter, a true health advocate. I've seen her beat many pavements with incredible amount of energy and commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome onto the stage Yvonne Chaka Chaka.
Thank you very much, Tsepiso. She is indeed my daughter, but there's no corruption, so don't worry. Konnichiwa, Japan. Konnichiwa. Excellencies and everyone here, we've heard everybody saying the right thing. Long walk to freedom. Yes, I'm a proud South African today standing here because we had a man who fought for us. And today, myself and my daughter, Tsepiso, we can say he gave us back our dignity. But does everybody have access to health coverage? No. Ladies and gentlemen, history shows us that our actions do not match our words. Speeches like this, declarations at global summits like these ones are very easy but useless unless we implement them. We must walk the talk, ladies and gentlemen. Health is a human right, but not a given. We keep saying, do not leave anyone or don't leave no one behind. But many people are left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unacceptable. We must make sure that all people, even the ones with no political power, the economically poor people, ethnic minorities, IDP, internally displaced people, people in remote areas, people in remote communities, migrants, including all undocumented people, populations that are stigmatized, and criminals must have access to health care. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, no more discrimination. Business as usual will not lead to access for UHC. Japan, our host country, proves that when government invests in people, everything goes well. Education is something that is very important, ladies and gentlemen. So, do the right thing. It is important for those policymakers and politicians to do the right thing, because it is smart to do something right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's invest in our children and our women and everybody. Let us do it for the sake of our children. Healthy children equals healthy families, equals healthy people, equals healthy economies, bringing inclusive and successful economic development. Now is the time, ladies and gentlemen. We've chosen this path. Let no one turn us around, because if we don't do it, we are going to be judged by the next generation. Let us do it for the sake of our women and our children and a better society. His Excellency, we are proud to have leaders like you, and leaders like a man who I can proudly call my father. He will be 100 years next year. Yes, I still say he will be, because to me, he will always be alive. Because he is a great man. And if he was here, he was going to say, I am a pensioner, but I am happy to be here. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, I want to say, let us do it, ladies and gentlemen. Our children are going to ask us, what did we do? Forums like this are very important. But if we do not implement, we're just wasting our time, money, and everything. So, I want to say to you, I bring life to this earth, recognize my worth, Gobamina Gilikawe. Tomorrow is for my children, the future we can change, the world we will rearrange. I am courage, passion, efficiency. I'm a woman, well-organized man. I am different, but equal, with a meticulous plan. Let me show you who I am. I'm a woman, and I'm gonna change the world. Thank you.
You see the problem, Mami Fon, when you tell people that I'm your daughter, and then I come up on stage now, people expect me to do better. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our program, of our ceremony. It's going to end with just a private conversation between Sputnik and I. So, Junbi desu ka?
準備できますか?
Yeah, 準備できますか?
準備できてます?
Are you ready, Tokyo? Are you ready, Tokyo? Wow, let's go have a party. What are we waiting for? Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.